guys, it's been a long week, I guess, or well, weekend, whatever you want to call it. It's ran into a whole week. I just finished Barber last weekend down in Birmingham, Alabama. First time at the track. It was really fun. I'm not sure how I'm going to split this video up, or if this video is going to be just about the truck, or if it's going to be about the trip and the drive or whatnot. But right now, currently, I'm on my way to Road Atlanta. You know, it's about 4 hours from where I live. So I am taking the Colorado. I am towing with it. The trailer I'm using is a U-Haul trailer, which I don't have a trailer of my own right now, which eventually, if I keep on doing this, I will get one, because renting U-Haul trailers is not cheap, especially whenever you just go ahead and buy the insurance, or the cheapest insurance, enough to cover the trailer if something happens to their trailer. So I've rented it, from I think Thursday until Sunday, just to have enough time to be able to unload and get it back to them and all that stuff whenever I get back. But anyways, I mean, it weighs 2,200 pounds, I think, the U-Haul trailer. The car, I think, weighs right at 4,200 pounds. So I'm looking at towing somewhere right around, I think, 6,400 pounds if I added it up right. I think maybe 6,200. But anyways, the Colorado is rated at 7,500 pound towing capacity. I will say it does good. It does fine. It doesn't really struggle too much. I think going to Birmingham, I usually pulled around 3,000 RPMs, 2,000 to 3,000 RPMs at the most. I averaged right at 14 miles per gallon on the trip, which I was really impressed, because I was reading that a lot of times people were averaging right at 10, 11 miles per gallon, the same as at 1,500. So that was rather impressive to me. I did use premium gas most of the time. There was one time I did get mid-grade. I did notice a difference in the mid-grade versus the premium in terms of just pull. It seemed it drove a bit smoother in terms of actually being able to pull the load versus with the mid-grade versus the premium. Now, driving it normally, I would just say GM recommends regular gas. I would honestly just stick with that. It seems like it does fine on regular gas, from what I can tell, if you're not towing. But now it's been hot, so I figured, some people will argue, well, they tuned it for regular, even for towing, so use that. Yes, they tuned it for regular. But from my experience with the WRX world and tuning world, regardless of whatever the tune is requesting, okay, they don't necessarily tune for the fuel per se, they tune for timing. So for the most part, tunes from the manufacturer, they're pretty poor. Their timing tables are pretty, from what I've heard, read, and all that good stuff, they're not the greatest. They ramp up the timing in really kind of bad spots, and they're just not great. So anytime you can get an advantage of a little bit extra fueling or cooling of the fuel, especially in the summer months, the better. So if you're towing 6,500 pounds with the 4-cylinder, it's not a hurt to run some premium fuel. And it does seem to make a difference. I would imagine that it helps with the detonation quite a bit. Now, I'm sure that maybe this engine can handle it, where it's designed, it's a little bit more robust with forged internals and all that. But if it's going to help the longevity of the motor, I'm going to try it. I'm going to use it. I eventually hope to get some type of scan tool to be able to read, I guess I don't know if they call it feedback knock on the GM products, on GM ECUs. I know that's what they called it in the Subaru world. They also called it DAM, or Dynamic Advanced Multiplier, or I think maybe Global Advanced Multiplier in some realms. But anyways, I hope to be able to kind of see what that looks like. But for the most part, the Colorado done great. It was able to tow the Mustang down there no problem to Birmingham. It was a 6-hour drive there and back, averaging 14 miles per gallon. Now this is going to be right at, well, I guess it was 600 miles total, give or take. Now this one's going to be about, I think, around 400 miles total trip. So we'll see how it does. Now there's a lot more hills going to Atlanta from where I live. I go through North Carolina, down through Georgia that way, instead of through Tennessee. So that does make it a little bit more complicated in terms of seeing how it's going to tow. I'm going to go up some steep grades. I'm going to imagine that it'll probably get close to red line at some points. I have seen people say that they've done that for quite a distance near red line, and it's been okay. So that's what this engine's designed to do. It's in a 1500 for towing, so we're going to use it for what it's designed for today. And I'm sure it'll be fine. And we'll get I'm sure you'll get the Mustang where it needs to be. So it's a rather comfortable truck too. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's the most comfortable. I mean, the seats are a little bit, after a while, they do get kind of tiresome riding. Slowing down, it does seem to slow okay. And it does seem to be a little, the brakes, are okay. I mean, now I will say with the U-Haul trailer, what I have noticed, it doesn't seem like you're able to use the electronic brake controller. And I don't know why. It doesn't seem to recognize it. I don't know if it's something that U-Haul has designed. I haven't read up on that. And gosh, I've never used an electronic brake controller before. I haven't really towed much. So I'm going to read some tonight. So for my trip back to see if it's something I can fix, if I can use it, because I'm sure it would make the braking a little bit better downhill. We'll see how the brakes do coming down those mountains. That is one of my concerns, not necessarily going up the hills, it's more so coming down the hills. And I'll report back later about how that does, how I feel like it's doing. So I am excited about the getting to Road Atlanta. This is the first time I've done Road Atlanta solo. I'll be in the intermediate class, intermediate 1. I have been doing novice in the past, so I did move up a class for this specific track. At Barber, I done novice, and I had an instructor since it was my first time at that track. I felt like I was kind of rather slow, which I felt like it was understandable considering it was my first time. Times probably I could have done a lot better. And the tires, the Goodyear Supercar 3s, they seem to do really well. I will say that they probably wear quite a bit quicker than the Firestones. That's going to be understandably so, because they are a 220 tread wear versus the 340 tread wear. And it was hot. The track was probably, I didn't measure it by any means, but I would say it was probably a good 120, 130 degrees on the track surface. Atlanta, or Road Atlanta, is going to be probably a lot hotter today or tomorrow. It's supposed to be 90 degrees ambient. In Atlanta, or what a lot of people would call hot Atlanta, I will say the track surface it'll be hot. I'd hate to even imagine. I brought fans or a blower to cool the brakes and try to keep the tire temps a little bit lower. I don't really think there's much controlling of the tire temps at a track event, but at least the brake temperatures in between runs, because I don't have the performance pack brakes or calipers. That is one of my concerns. Last year in September at Road Atlanta, the brake calipers, they didn't seem to fare very well, but I do have the G-Lock brake pads, and they did do some better. So that is what I'm hopeful for. I'm hopeful that they'll do all right. We shall see how that goes, and just kind of go from there. But I appreciate you all for joining me on this trip. And again, this is going to be kind of split up in a way I don't really know how I'm going to lay it out yet. I'm just going to edit it and see where it lands me. But there's going to be a lot of content because I recorded a lot of content. There's been racing, there's this truck content about towing. So I don't know what's going to be first. And I don't know if it's all going to be together or if it'll be separate, or how I'm going to do that. But thank you all again for joining me. Oh yes, I wanted to touch base about Alabama. This is just a side note. I wish I'd recorded some footage from in that area. If you're ever in northern Alabama, I can't remember the interstate number. I could look it up and let you know. But the interstate on the southbound lane right now, I'm sure it's been that way for a while now. But gosh, if you ever have to drive a trailer on that road, or even a normal car, if you're on there just in your nice vehicle, I probably would not recommend taking the interstate. That road is a disaster. It's a mess. So I don't know. They're working on it supposedly right now, so I don't know exactly how much longer it'll be before it's actually fixed, but right now it is not fixed whatsoever, and it is an absolute disaster. But anyways, that was just a side note. Well, I'm about 160 miles from Atlanta now. I made it through Asheville and quite a bit of North Carolina. I haven't made it to the Georgia state line yet. I don't know if I have to go through South Carolina this way or not. I'd imagine so. I made it up and down quite a few mountains, and down some mountains. I will say that I haven't had to use a lot of brakes, which is nice, but it does use the engine brake. I think I've got it up to about 4,000 RPMs engine braking, and it's had to do that quite a bit. And that's okay. I mean, at least it does save the brakes. It makes it feel pretty stable too. I am using the tow haul mode with this, and it seems to be doing pretty well. It hasn't really had any trouble keeping up to speed. I haven't really struggled. Now, I did stop. I pulled off in the exit and checked the straps on the Mustang for its U-Haul trailer. And of course, getting back up to speed off an exit ramp, it does take a little bit longer than, say, your normal. I'm sure maybe a V8 would potentially. I know that there's been some tests. It's a little bit slow with this much load on it. That's to be expected. Right now, I'm going down a hill. It looks like I can check the grade right quick. Like I said, handling is pretty decent with this much weight. Let me see what the grade is here if I can. Yeah, let's see. Maybe about a 4 degree. No, maybe a 2 degree. I think it seems more than that. I'm not sure. As you can see here, right now it's engine braking. I'm going about 58 miles per hour downhill. But it seems to be keeping it pretty slow. I'm not having to brake any at all, at least. To keep it at 58 and steady. If I brake, it'll bring it back down to a relatively safe speed. I mean, you want to keep it kind of going slow, I think, down these hills or something that heavy, just in case you have to stop pretty suddenly. It also just keeps your brakes cool. But I'll check back in the closer I get to Atlanta. I do want to show you all kind of unloading the Mustang and just my afterthoughts anyways, but we'll touch base here in a little bit.